So I actually saw somebody handle this
Al Gore.
and talk about that. It wasn't Al Gore.
Okay.
I saw somebody talking about this, and they had a TikTok, right?
Sure.
And this person brings it out, and they said, "This is in your Bible. You can read it. I've got my Bible here." She goes, "I have two Bibles. I have this Bible and this Bible. I'm going to read it to you from the NIV." And the guy who said that goes, "Of course she's reading it from the NIV,
Right?
Because that's the only version where you're going to get this."
It says what you wanted to say.
Where it's going
Right.
to say what you wanted to say,
Right.
right? So why don't I read verses 21 through 22,
Right.
as it's written in the NIV,
Right.
and this maybe will clear up for you why somebody might say this is about having an abortion.
And while you do that, I'm going to pull up the Hebrew so that we can also cross-reference.
Fantastic. All right. So NIV verses 21 through 22. Here the priest is to put the woman under this curse. May the Lord cause you to become a curse among your people when he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. May this water that brings a curse into your body so that your abdomen swells or your womb miscarries. Right. So now immediately the person who's claiming this is about abortion says, see, it's right there. You can't explain it away. It says right there that it's going to cause her to miscarry.
Right.
Right. And so that is clearly a way of forcing her to have a natural abortion.
Right.
Which first of all, even if I read the word miscarry, I don't think of abortion.
Right. The woman who miscarries didn't have an abortion.
Right.
That poor woman.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way to frame it. But here we have something that does in fact talk about losing a pregnancy.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
She will lose the pregnancy.
She's going to lose the pregnancy. It's going to terminate the pregnancy.
Right.
As a result of what they did.
Right.
Right.
Which, by the way, miscarry is not in there yet. So you can keep doing your.
Right. So I would say that you're kind of missing the point if you're jumping to this. You're taking the word miscarry and you're applying it. And you can accuse me of trying to do a little, sleight of hand with the words, but that's not what's happening.
Right.
When you translate as miscarry, I think that's when you're doing the sleight of hand.
Well, 100%. Right.
When you try to say that this is a prescription for abortion, that's when you're trying to do the sleight of hand.
Right.
So first we need to consider the context. We've already mentioned this. At no point has pregnancy been mentioned or has been talked about. And then secondly, if you look at verse 28, if you look at verse 28, it says, if, however, the woman has not made herself impure but is clean, she will be cleared of guilt and will be able to have children. Or as it said in the version that I read before in the NASB, that she will be able to conceive, right? So right there, if the insinuation is that if you pass the test, you will be able to conceive, then what it's saying is that you are not with child.
Right.
Right? That should be the reason and logic that you follow in that instance.
Right.
Right? So,
so here's what's really interesting. So if you just read the text as it's stated. So you go back and you read Numbers 5:11. It says, then the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, if any man's wife goes astray, and is unfaithful to him, and the man has sexual relations with her, and it is hidden, it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and she remains undiscovered. That's very important.
Yeah.
So, because we talked about this, first off, it's hidden from him. So we're saying if a woman has had relations with another man outside of the confines of their marriage, so it's not her husband, and it's hidden, meaning he has not caught them in the act, but it's also undiscovered.
He has no evidence of it.
He has no evidence, meaning there is no bump in that belly.
Right.
There is no...
Yeah, pregnancy is a form of evidence of sexual intercourse.
100%.
Because I don't know, I know there's a lot of people that don't understand this. Pregnancy only comes from sexual intercourse.
Right. So this, especially back then, there was no artificial insemination. There was just this. So this is important for us to understand. What we're talking about here is a woman who has been accused of having sexual relationships, but is not pregnant. That's really what this is talking about.
Right.
This is about a person who has no belly bump to show, and the belly is now swelling.
Yeah.
This concoction causes the belly to swell, and I think that's also important because if you actually go and you read the word for swell to swell up, it's really interesting. The word being used here is sabah, and that word literally means to swell. There is never once of a miscarry.
Right.
It doesn't even have that in. Miscarry is not in the Strong's Concordance of words.
Right.
In Strong's, for people to understand what that means, Strong's Concordance is Strong sat down with a bunch of scholars and came up with every single word in the Bible and what it translates to. So that way you can see all of the forms, because there's past, present, present perfect. There's all these forms, especially in Hebrew. He sits down and writes all of them and says, this is what they're defined as.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm going to say one that's we're getting controversial, might as well. Homosexuality is translated homosexuality. Like Strong says, this is what it means.
Yes.
This is, and it was widely accepted. This is what it means. Okay, so let me just put that in context. He uses the word swell. Never once does it ever say, it says a primitive root of amass, to grow turrid, specifically to array an army against, to fight, or to swell.
Yeah.
Never once does it ever say to abort a baby, to miscarry a baby.
Right.
It has nothing to do with pregnancy. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, there is a word that is used.
Yes.
It could be one of two words. It's shakol or shakal.
Sure.
And that word would be used to capture the sense of a miscarriage, and it is used in Exodus 23:26,
right?
Job 21:10, and Hosea 9:14. It is not used in this verse.
Right.
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 The NIV is one of two major translations that uses the term miscarry. And it specifically says miscarry of the womb. And where it says miscarry, the word, now I think you were doing Hebrew.
I was doing the Hebrews there, yeah.
So from the Septuagint, I believe it's Yerik.
Okay.
Which means the thigh will fall away. So Yarik is used other places in the Bible. Okay.
Well, yeah. You do have Yurik in it's actually it's in the
Hebrew, right?
It's in the Hebrew. Yeah.
So the word Yerik is what gets translated as the thigh falls away. So Genesis 32:25 uses Yerik, and it says, when the man saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated while he wrestled with him. The socket of Jacob's hip is Yarik. Okay. And Judges 3:16, now Ehud made himself a sword which had two edges, a cubit in length, and he strapped it on his right thigh under his cloak. His right thigh, Yarik. Okay. This is not womb.
Right.
This is thigh.
Literally, it's what they describe it in the concordance is it's where the sword is worn. So it's over here, which is really interesting because this kind of gets at what the curse is. Yeah. The curse really isn't you're losing your baby. The curse is more so you're going to have kids.
Right. There's going to be a level of deformity.
Right. And so that in and of itself, there's no.
Now there is a word that the Bible does translate as womb.
Yes.
And that's rechem. And it is used in Genesis 20:18, Genesis 29:31, and Genesis 30:22. It is not used in this passage. Right. So the word that is typically translated as womb is not used here. Right. So the terms that we typically get in Hebrew that equal womb and miscarry are not used.
No.
Which is why there's only two translations of the Bible that use miscarry and womb. Right. Because nobody else is, because it's not congruent with what the actual words say. Right. I think furthermore,
which just to give you a little context, both of those versions, the NIV and the NRSV, NIV was 1973 was initially published, and the NRSV was, I think it was 1989.
They're very modern.
So this is within. So just put that into context. This is in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay. Scholars up until this point, through the 1800s, the 1700s, the majority of the 1900s, all went a different direction.
Right. And we're not even talking about for 2,000 years. We're really talking about for 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is one of the things that, so when people say, hey, Christians don't even know that this abortion passage is in the Bible.
Oh, yeah. They don't even know it. Yeah.
Right. One of the things that they fail to understand is that this isn't a Christian text.
Right.
This is a Jewish text.
Right.
Which makes it a Christian text. Right. But it goes beyond the founding of Christianity. And so there's an entire different, though similar religion in Judaism that uses this text as well. And guess what? They don't say that it is. They don't say that it's an abortion.
By the way, the ESV, which was created in 2008, doesn't say it.
Right.